And God wept. It was the last days of the war in heaven. 1,000 years had passed since a third of the host fell, and in that time, your family stood on the parapets of heaven, fighting beside angel and mortal alike. It was a long and painful war. And on this day, it ended. But the fallen angels didn't fight alone. Slowly, the mortals of heaven, humans, elves, gnomes, halflings, and even some dwarves, defected to the other side. Worse yet, somehow, the fallen host commanded not only the living, but the dead. Creatures who walked about in direct defiance of God's laws. But the battle went poorly for the fallen host, and on this day, they made a last desperate attempt to take the holy city of heaven, the location of the holy see, the seat of God's throne. After this battle, heaven would stand, or it would fall. You stand on the walls of the holy city as the enemies of God array on the field below. Around you, mortals and angels flex limbs and wings, adjust armor and limber weapons. The light of God shines from the holy sea behind you, illuminating the walls, the fields, all of heaven. The sky arches high above, fluffy white clouds reflecting God's radiance down on the world below. Then a rumble builds in the army amassed below. Creatures tense in blackened armor, brandishing vicious weapons. A pulsing sound rises from the rumble, 1,000 weapons beating against 1,000 shields. Your mouth goes dry. The pounding fills your ears until you're afraid they'll burst. The sound mounts and mounts and mounts. And then they charge. Hello, this is Robert J. Defendi. Echoes of Heaven began at the junction between two separate ideas. First of all was the ulcer. An ulcer is a sinkhole of evil, a place where hell itself infects the land. I own countless adventures in many, many settings, and I wanted a mechanic that allowed me to play any adventure. And an ulcer can be anything. It can manifest in any way. Do you want to run a spectacular trap dungeon? There's no need to worry about logistics, costs, or the army of construction workers. You can just put it in an ulcer. Do you want to run a strange, surreal horror? Put it in an ulcer. An adventure that breaks genre? Ulcer. The ulcer is the Swiss Army knife of adventure design. The second idea had to do with the war in heaven. I wanted to write about how a third of the heavenly host fell, a story about the defeat of the devil himself. As these two ideas grew, I realized that the war in heaven could set the game world in motion, be the backstory of why hell is infecting the world, even 10,000 years later. Of course, when you have those ideas together, you have to build a story around both. And that gave us the first adventure, The Throne of God. An adventure that spans 10,000 years.